Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's show, I'm going to make those cuttings start to grow, hopefully. So we're going to put the cuttings from the Juniper transplant repot last night. We're going to put the Juniper cuttings into some soil. So I've got a bucket of stuff here. I got a pail of stuff here. I got my cuttings right there. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. In the sense that I have a branch that splits into two shoots in here, so I'm probably going to cut this thing off right about here this fall. I've taken my knob cutter and I've gotten rid of some of that. So I just put them on the bottom, growing upwards into the bag. We fill it up with trees and then we water as we need to. We try and get rid of those air pockets. So what I got here is some leftover soil from the transplant, the repot of the Juniper. And some leftover soil from my recent repotting. And it's some very fine particles in here, a little bit of organic material in here. I like to recycle. And what I have over here is, you'll notice I got some powdery substance with some pumice in here. There's actually akadama in here, pumice in here, and lava rock. So you'll see a little bit of red tint, a little white tint. And this is the finest sift from when I recently sifted my bonsai soil. I usually get a large, a medium, a small, and then whatever is not going and sticking above that mesh is all the powdery residue. Let's go put that in here. And there's a little bit more probably of that dust that I'd prefer. But when I mix that together with this leftover soil, I'm going to get a really nice substrate for my cuttings. Some people use straight sand. A lot of people will use straight vermiculite. I do have some vermiculite, and I'm going to toss that into this mix as well. So once you mix all this together, my leftover fine bonsai soil from another pot that used to be from another person, not the soil that I use, and then I've got this nice, small, extremely fine bonsai soil that I will not use in any of my pots because it's too small, and this is going to be great for putting some plantings in and holding a lot of moisture. Let's get the vermiculite. From your local nursery store, a little vermiculite, professional grade, very fine particle. This is going to pour some of that in there. Notice how dusty it is. Very fine. Sand-like. And then I also, if I have some laying around, we'll throw in a little bit of peat moss. Not a lot. I don't want as much dirt as I want sand, granules, the vermiculite. Now, we're going to blend all this together. So, half of this is recycled. Actually, probably 3/4 of this is recycled. And then I added some vermiculite, a little bit of moss. And here I have a nice substrate for my cuttings to go in there. And now we're going to get the pot ready to repot. My big Japanese quince that has since become the flowering tree and the repotting right here, both growing well, loving life. This was the big pot that it was in. I'm going to make this my cutting pot for the spring, and I'm going to keep adding cuttings to this as I go this spring. So we're going to get some dirt in here, fill it in about halfway. It's a little bit big than what I typically do. Super duper good draining, but you see how big those holes are? Those fine granules are going to go through there. So there's some tape here already from your sheetrock tape. We got some more pre-cut, and we're going to put some of those in there now. So I'm going to overlap these a little bit so I make even smaller holes to make sure that this fine soil does not go through, but will still provide ample drainage so we don't have a swimming pool. at the bottom. I've had this sheetrock tape for over 2 years now. I'm maybe about halfway through it now. So it's nice that it lasts as long as it does. All right, got a couple extra. I'll hold them down by putting a couple backwards. All right, let's dump some soil in there. Here's my mixture. Here. Here's some of that grain's already going through. It's gonna make a mess in my plant room. So this did a good job of filling up this about halfway. So all we have to do now is to prepare our cuttings, and then we're gonna stick them into our soil. So we wanna get down there a good couple inches. I got a good couple inches of soil, so I think we'll be in good shape. So let's get our cuttings prepared with some root powder, and we'll make this happen. Turned off my red grow light, my red, purple, blue, all those colors. Make it look a little bit more natural in here. So I've got all my cuttings from yesterday's tree, and what I need is a scissors for a sharp edge or a knife. I need my rooting powder. So I got some rooting powder here, just your run-of-the-mill rooting powder from the store. And we don't want to have a super amount of foliage left on our trees. So we typically will, or our cuttings I should say, so we're gonna usually pluck some of our foliage off to make it a little bit less needy in that early photosynthesis process because there's no roots supporting it. We're gonna keep it nice and warm. And we're also going to try to possibly have warmth underneath. If you want to go out and get yourself a heat pad for underneath your growing bed of cuttings, I have not done that yet, but I hear that that is going to really stimulate the growth of those roots. So all of my cuttings in the ficus world, I've always made sure that I made a fresh cut. So we cut this, cut it at an angle a little bit. And then I've also taken my blade of my scissors here, and I've scraped a little bit of the bottom to try to just get a little bit into that cambium layer. And then we're going to go ahead and put that in the root powder. There we go. And then we're going to stick that down into our bin. Okay. I don't care about direction right now. I don't really care that much about how it's shaped in the least. We just want this to grow. I'm going to cut a couple of chips off of here. I'm just doing this to, again, make it a little bit less vigorous. And so we can try to get some growth on here. So again, you can peel off some of the foliage. On my ficus trees, I've actually cut leaves in half, but left some foliage. So this one has less now. I'll get my fresh cut. I will scrape a little bit off that cambium layer towards the bottom, get a little rooting powder on all that good stuff, and we'll put that in here like that. All right, we're gonna do that for the rest of these cuttings. Preparing my last cutting, I've got a good couple of inches of rows of about, I don't know, 15 to 20 of these cuttings. I hope that 3, 4, 5 of them survive. Some of them are pretty thin, seem to be pretty dry. We're gonna get this thing watered down here in just a little bit. And there we go. So I have a good couple inches of cuttings ready to grow. I'm going to keep them right where they are right here, so when I water them, they drain real nice right into my reservoir here. So we're going to give it a good a good watering. So a lot of cuttings want to stay moist. A lot of moisture. It's kind of like back when I was a kid, my mom would put cuttings from a plant into a jar of water on the windowsill. I've mentioned this before. And then watch the roots grow. So I'm going to give this a good watering. So this has nice water in all those newly cut cuttings. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a heat pad, my son had a gecko. No, it wasn't a gecko. It was its name was Charlie. Bearded dragon is what my son had. And the bearded dragon had a heating pad. We had a heating pad for that, but that recently has been thrown away. The heating pad, in the last couple years anyway. So I've watered it. We got good water here, and we're not too close to any heat source. And again, my plant room stays somewhere between 65 and 80 degrees, to 80 in the daytime. We'll maybe even put a sheet of plastic over here during the daytime. A plastic over here will go ahead and make sure that moisture stays within all this new want-to-be growth. So you can cover it in plastic, but you also want to have some airflow. So you don't want to have it airtight of plastic for a long time. Open it up once in a while. I'm not going to cover it in plastic at this stage. I got a nice, really temperate plant room, not a lot of wind. I do have a fan that I can blow around in here, but it's going to be a little bit more humid than the rest of my house, and it's going to be nice, consistent heat, and we'll see if we can get these things to grow. So it really only takes about a half an hour of your time. I spend about a half an hour looking through these, plucking out some of the foliage and putting them in root powder and planting them. Not a very time-consuming ordeal. And if they grow, I got some bonsai, potential bonsai trees, pre-bonsais, maybe sell them at the auction in a couple of years. They could become a really cool bonsai down the road. And if they all die, oh well, I've tried, and you can always try, and hopefully you have success. So I wish you luck in your cuttings. Let me know what you've done, what you've learned, and we'll do some updates on these cuttings. And I have a lot of room here to add some more cuttings throughout the spring season as I repot more plants. For today's Bonsai, I'm Dave Weiss. We'll catch you on the next one. Happy bonsaiing, and we'll catch you really, really soon. Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. In the sense that I have a branch that splits into two shoots in here, so I'm probably going to cut this thing off right about here this fall. I've taken my knob cutter and I've gotten rid of some of that. So I just put them on the bottom, growing upwards into the bag. We fill it up with trees, and then we water as we need to. We're trying to get rid of those air pockets.